We're back. Good morning, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. It is Wednesday, and it's time for the Going Broadway podcast. We're back to our normal 10 a.m. Eastern, 9 a.m. Central. Cole, what's happening?
Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the greatest wrestling podcast ever. Because we were gone for a week, that just means there's twice as much more to talk about.
So as you may have noticed, I was a little speechless when as we opened the show, and we're gonna kind of pull an audible, so to speak, when it comes to at least opening the show. So normally our off the top segment, we kind of discuss some headlines over the last week, or in this case, 2 weeks, which we'll probably get to some degree. But I wanted to say that we have some of the best viewers and listeners. Like, I would put our fan base up against anyone else's, just in terms of, generosity and, I don't even know the word, but I came in this morning and there was a box sitting outside our door, and it was addressed to the Going Broadway podcast. And I was like, oh, that's interesting. I'm not expecting anything. And I apologize as I talk if I'm just speechless. I'm still kind of floored, and this will make more sense as we go. But somebody who chose to remain nameless sent something to Cole and I, but they also sent us a letter, and I'm actually going to read that. I'm actually going to read that on the air here shortly. Before I do want to preface by saying, by me reading this, Lineup Media Group is not endorsing or promoting anything from a political view aspect or religious aspect or whatever. So, that being said, again, if you're just joining us, I came in this morning. There was a box addressed to our podcast. I opened it. There are some contents in it for Cole and I, and there's also a letter that I'm going to read now. So, and I was going to save this for our fan mail segment because it's literally fan mail, but I didn't feel it was appropriate for fan mail. So I'm going to try as best as I can as well to keep composure as I read this. So here it goes. Dear Alex and Cole, I hope this finds you well. I want to tell you boys, thank you. Your podcast is my favorite of the few that I get to watch and listen to. But yours stands out for numerous reasons. Your willingness to interact with your viewers and listeners every week, myself included, when I am able to join you live, creates a fun dynamic that is rare with any podcast, especially a wrestling podcast. By the way, this is a 2-pager, so just bear with me. Also, I truly enjoy the fan mail questions, but also appreciate you being open to answering questions that do not have to be wrestling related. It makes the podcast and you guys feel more personable and approachable when asking questions. I know that may seem meaningless to you guys, but I have for quite some time had a problem with feeling like I ask dumb questions, that I do not ask the right questions, or that my questions are irrelevant. But I have never felt like that with you guys. Thank you as well for being a light in a dark place that wrestling can be sometimes. Even if I am at work and have your podcast playing in the background, I know I don't have to worry about it not being appropriate, and that it's something I can have on while at home with my kids as well. Thank you for being classy gentlemen and for being a family-friendly show. I want to also thank you for getting me through one of the most trying times in my life. I endured maybe the greatest hardship one can experience this past August when my 5-year-old son contracted COVID-19 and had a lot of complications. For weeks, in fact, we thought we were going to lose him and had very little hope he would survive. Okay, I got this. It was not long after this you guys came back with the podcast after your hiatus. It quickly became an escape and a sense of normalcy. It was during one of the podcasts not too long after you came back that either you or Cole said that you were praying for everyone affected by COVID-19. And in parentheses, they say, forgive me for not remembering which one of you said it. I cannot answer for anyone else, but for the first time, a statement such as this coming from someone felt genuine to me. It felt like it carried weight. And with the exception of my close family, I felt like I was no longer alone in this fight. And I would not have believed it had I not seen and experienced it myself. But a matter of a little over a week later, not only was my son out of the hospital, but was at home completely healthy with no more COVID symptoms. And to this day, he is completely healthy and will be celebrating his 6th birthday in a few weeks. Finally, thank you for the free giveaways you have already done and the giveaways that I know you'll be having in the future, including the belt giveaway. I have a belt collection myself, and I want to share and express my appreciation for you both as best as I know how. I was lucky and fortunate enough to win 2 belt raffles myself about a year ago on another Facebook page, one of them being a mystery belt raffle. The belt I won in that mystery belt raffle, or that belt, the belt I won in that mystery raffle was an NXT UK women's belt. However, this was a belt that I already owned prior to winning it, but I have kept them both until now. Alex, I noticed when you shared your NXT collection on the GBP pages a while back that it did not look like you had a UK women's belt. So I would like to give this belt to you to add to your collection. Hopefully you don't already own it. I'm going to actually grab this real quick. Oh, wow. Man. Yeah. So, I mean, I'm not playing around, guys. Like, here it is.
Wow.
So, let's set this back down. Oh, man. I promise we'll get to the normal part of the show, guys. I just give me 5 minutes. Okay. Cole, we all know he put all in all caps. Well, he or she, but we all know you are a John Cena fan, and you brought on your WWE spinner belt to the podcast quite some time ago, and I think you're holding it during your intro. Hold on a second. I had my fingers crossed that since it is a more rare belt, you did not already have a U.S. spinner, so I'd like to give this U.S. spinner belt to you also from my collection to yours.
You didn't tell me I was going to cry.
No, I gave you a disclaimer. Oh man, these are your guys' belts now, so feel free to keep them, sell them, or give them away. They're just a small token of how I cannot say thank you enough for all that you have done, everything you have helped me through, and everything that you will continue to do. No matter how few or how many viewers or listeners you may have, as long as you continue to do the podcast, you will always have a lifelong fan and friend in me. I'm sure you noticed that I did not share my name on the packaging or in this letter. I did not want to make this about me. I am not looking for the credit, nor do I want to be recognized. Just know that I can never repay you, and I'm forever grateful to you both. So again, thank you for being the down-to-earth guys that you are. Thank you for the fun you bring to the podcast every week, and most importantly, thank you for all the thoughts and prayers you offered out to my son and for my family. God bless you. Yeah, so that's why whenever Cole gets here in the mornings, I always have to we keep our doors locked until 9:00 our time, and so I have to let him in, and I was a little bit late getting to him, and I told him, hey, just a heads up, we had I gave him a heads up on this, but I'll say right away, guys, I don't even care that this is a women's belt. I mean, it's not even about the belt itself, is what it represents. And I can assure you, if whoever sent us this, number one, thank you from the bottom of our hearts. And it's not even about the belts themselves as a materialistic item, if that makes sense. And I don't care if I ever go through any kind of like financial hardship or whatever, I'm never selling that belt. I mean, that means so much to me just for what it represents. And I mean, I'm so speechless right now, and I don't know. It's just, I was not expecting that at all. I mean, and I mean, that letter in itself was just, I'm going to keep that in a special place. I mean, I'm never going to mean, I might frame it. I don't know, but that was just like, it's like, wow. So,
I would like to say,
yeah, go for it. I mean, I don't know if you got something to say. Go right ahead. I'm kind of flying by the seat of my pants here.
I'm happy to hear that your son is doing well. I honestly, when someone tells me people are going through something, or that we just know a lot of people are going through something, we try not to get on our personal beliefs here, but
right.
But when I say I'm praying for somebody, I mean that, and I know Alex is the same, and so it's just a great feeling to know that you felt that was genuine, because it was, and so you don't know how much it means to me, first and foremost, that your son is doing well.
Exactly. That's what's the most important thing. I mean, it's not even about materialistic stuff at this point.
I can't tell you how many times I've been made fun of or kind of joked about with having a wrestling podcast. I've been joked about it being family friendly. I've been joked about all these different things, and so to hear that the show has impacted you in such a way that it helped you through that time really, really touches my heart. And this is just like, you don't understand that Alex knows. I told him before the show some of the things that are going on in my personal life and, changes and stuff. This just literally made my whole entire year. Like to know that whatever it is that I'm doing, can help bring joy to someone's life. Hopefully, we can continue to do that and whatnot. So everyone's saying they didn't get to see it. So
I tried to. It doesn't freely spin, but it's because it's been re-leathered. I mean, it's not like the stock strap that when it was on the shop or the WWE shop. I assume they sold those on WWE shop. I think that's where. Anyway,
regardless, I love it. I don't
yeah,
know.
and that thing's even been re-stoned. It looks like. I mean, the stones on that are like, just light is just bouncing off that. So
incredibly thankful. Thank you.
And if any of you have any advice for Cole on how to change that so it freely spins, I'm sure he'll have some open ears. But I honestly don't know if you can or if you'd even want to. But yeah, I agree with Cole. If at any point, if there's anything we can do to help, like if someone's in need, or I know that's such a broad statement. I'm not going to bring up his name, but we have someone that, watches the show frequently, and I know it didn't come from this person because he lives in the States, and this package actually came from Canada. But I know he deals with, health issues, and I know he's overcoming those health issues as well, but I always tell him, if there's anything that we can do to help with the process of getting better, or I'm sorry that I'm so speechless this morning, guys, but I just tell him, don't hesitate to let us know. And we sincerely mean that. I mean, we're here to have fun, to talk about wrestling, to chat with you guys, and we have fun doing it each and every week. But we also don't want to be the kind of people that are, for lack of a better word, untouchable, I guess. Like, we're not going to be those guys that are on a pedestal, if that makes sense. Like, we're not like some famous media guys or whatever. That's not our aim. That's not what we want to do. That's not who we want to portray ourselves to be. So, that being said, I'll conclude this by, again, saying thank you yes. to whoever sent this to us. I mean, that was such a beautifully written letter as well. I mean, if whoever wrote that, I know they indicated that sometimes they have issues with feeling like they ask dumb questions. Whenever we do our fan mail segment, or just anything, if you ever have a question for us, don't not ask because you think it's a dumb question. It's not going to be a dumb question. And I apologize in advance if we can't get to your question right away, if at all. I mean, we do have a lot of questions that come in, but we try as best as we can to get to all of them, whether it's on the show, whether it's through private messaging, things like that. So, but I also want to say thank you to you guys, the viewers, you guys, the listeners. And as my way of saying thank you, and I forgot to tell Cole this before we went on, next week we're going to do a belt giveaway. It's not going to be one of these two belts because these two just mean a lot to us. Yeah. But join us next week live. Every live viewer will have the opportunity to win a belt next week. I'll publish it or post it on our social media pages. But next week, I don't know what belt we're giving away, but we will be giving away a belt for free. Now, as I've said before, we'll only ship to the U.S., the lower 48 states for free. If you live in Alaska, Hawaii, Canada, or otherwise internationally, you would be responsible for the shipping. Now, that's for this belt giveaway that we're going to do next week. For the AEW belt giveaway, I indicated that if you live in the U.S. or Canada, I will ship that belt for free. But I'm getting ahead of myself. We'll get to that later on in the podcast. But yeah, next week, join us. We will be giving away a free belt. Every live viewer next week. I just read the comment you're laughing at. Join us live next week. I'll publish it on our, I keep saying publish. I guess it's the same thing. Post it on our social media pages. We'll get the word out. And we'll give away a free belt next week just because, I wish we could do more. I mean, it's just, I don't know. I'm still speechless. Anyway. That being said, I felt like this was kind of our pre-match schmoz that they usually see, like before the bell rings.
Right.
So now we can officially start. So, that being said, where do we want to start? Well, we can start. Did you watch NXT last night?
Yeah.
We have new NXT Women's Tag Champions.
Yes, we do.
And if we would have done so later in the show we're going to do our subject to change segment. If we would have done our podcast yesterday, like if we normally did our podcast on Tuesdays, I would have said, I bet Candice and Indy are going to actually win the tag belts. For no other reason than it's just a hunch.
Right.
I mean, just the timing of the booking of the match and I don't know. Thought the match itself was pretty decent.
Yeah.
Contrary to a lot of people on social media that maybe they didn't like. Wasn't that they didn't necessarily like the match, they just didn't like the title change necessarily. So let's see. We got 2 weeks to cover. Kenny Omega is Impact champion.
What about the news about him versus Andrade for the?
We could talk about that.
Triple A. I was kind of shocked by. I guess not shocked because Andrade, obviously with the Hispanic heritage gimmick kind of thing, the AAA out of the 3 belts that Kenny owns right now or holds, that one makes sense. But I was almost thinking maybe more Impact, like he would have came in and signed with Impact and challenged for the Impact, and that way they have, a new face, of the Impact place when he wins it. But I don't know. Like I'm kind of intrigued by this match.
What's interesting, though, is our good friend of the show, who we talk about a lot, Dave Meltzer. Say that sarcastically in case you all are wondering.
Text him afterwards.
He actually said that he believes that Andrade is actually taking a huge pay cut by taking this match. So Andrade recently signed with this other, I guess it's like a upstart promotion. That's not the right word. I'll just go with that word because I can't think of the actual word I'm trying to think of. But this upstart promotion, Federación, I took 4 years of Spanish and I'm still terrible at it. But But whatever it is, I think that deal is on a per date or per event basis. And what Meltzer said is because he's going to take this AAA date, he could be making a lot more with this other company, but he's choosing to take a pay cut so he can wrestle Kenny Omega. Now, to me, that begs the question, if he's not necessarily signed with AAA, does that give away the result of the match? Does it mean that...
Is Kenny signed with AAA?
I'm getting there. And I'm not thinking out loud. I'm dictating, I guess, what I've read on social media. So people have said, well, is Andrade signed with AAA? Is that going to give away the result of the match? Since if he's not signed with AAA, he's not going to be champion. Well, Kenny, my reply was to a couple of comments I saw on our Twitter. Kenny's not signed with AAA. He's been AAA Mega Champion for a year, give or take.
Yeah,
I don't know how long, but
somewhere around there.
Now I get there's COVID and stuff like that. There's restrictions and whatnot, but I don't think it gives away the results of the match. If anything, it gives more intrigue that he could actually win it. Now, to further complicate things, Meltzer also said that he's not sure if Kenny would drop the belt because Tony Khan isn't hot on the idea of Kenny losing a match while he's AEW champion. So, a lot of interesting dynamics involved. Nonetheless, I'm intrigued to see the match. I don't know what the date of Triple Mania is. I'll just look it up real quick. But that's going to be a banger of a match. Let's see. Not sure if it's been announced yet, but usually these take place later-ish in the year, so August, September, October. Actually, the last one was in December. It's taken place in December a couple times, so I would venture to say I'd say in the fall, probably. I mean, I would think COVID restrictions by that point would be enough to where they don't have to delay it. So
the two questions I have with this particular setup, one is something you mentioned, Tony Khan not being hot on Kenny losing a belt while he's the guy.
Yeah.
Okay, so at what point does that become too much control when you're talking about other companies being involved? Because if Tony Khan's not hot on him dropping belts, that means he's not hot on him dropping an Impact belt. That means he's not hot on him dropping, obviously, the AEW belt. Obviously not hot on him dropping the AAA. Well, Impact and AAA don't listen to Tony Khan.
Exactly.
So at what point do you put Kenny Omega in an awkward position to say, you know what, you're holding our belt. We either have to do one of two things. If you're saying you won't go against Tony Khan, who's saying this, that he doesn't want you dropping it, but we want our belt back. We want to continue on. Do you just strip him of the belt? Are you Kenny Omega? Do you go ahead and wrestle the match and foil the plans of the company that you're literally an executive for? At what point does that become too much control? Because this is one of those things that no one really talks about with the Forbidden Door and working with other companies. It kind of sounds like Tony Khan is leading this pack here, and it kind of starts to have Vince McMahon vibes. Oh, well, I don't really like that we're going to do that, so we're not going to do that. So sorry, AAA, you're just going to have to deal without. And Kenny's your champion whether you like it or not.
Well, this is going back to the territory days. I mean, you had one booker that was over that territory, but generally you didn't have guys outside the territory winning your titles or your championships. Right. So, no, I agree. It definitely brings up an interesting dynamic. So that transitions well into another topic we can discuss. So I think he was AAA Latin American champion. I think that was what the official label of the championship was. But Daga, is that how you pronounce it?
Daga,
he was stripped of that title just not too long ago.
Wow. And
that fed into the rumors that he and Tessa Blanchard were going to AEW. The latest thing I've read on that is that AEW has never had any interest in Tessa Blanchard. That's not to say they don't have interest in Daga at this point, but
I thought I saw Daga on Impact though here recently. I could be wrong on that, but I swear I saw him in a match at some point in time on Impact not too long ago.
He hasn't wrestled for Impact since 2020, according to.
So it's been a year. Okay. I remember seeing him on the banner. I couldn't remember when it was, but
So October 20th of 2020, it was reported that he was released from his Impact contract per his request. So, I'm looking up something real quick. I think it was the Latin American Championship.
that sounds right.
Yeah. So he was just stripped of it about a week and a half ago, and someone else has since won it. Won the vacant championship. Whoever Taurus is. No offense to Taurus, but I've never heard of that name.
He's no Daga.
And so
with all that being said, do you think that leads to Andrade appearing on AEW? Not as an AEW star, obviously, because there's brand sharing and all this cross talent pollination type stuff that they're doing, but
I almost wonder if, and this is no disrespect to, Good Brothers, Kenta, Yuji Nagata, next week. Part of me wonders if AEW wouldn't feature so high profile of a star if they're not under the AEW banner.
Right.
I could be wrong. I kind of hope I'm wrong. I would have thought Kenta would have kind of fallen under that, pretty high profile guy. Good Brothers, that's debatable also.
Yeah, but do they get a pass because of the relationship with Kenny?
That's kind of what I was thinking.
Storyline, because they're playing a pretty prominent part of the AEW storyline that they're building. So I think that's the reason why they get a pass. I'm just curious if this is how you get Andrade on kind of national television again without necessarily signing him right away.
But then they also have to get the approval of this other
company.
I got to look it up. That's bugging me what it's called. Let's see. That's all it's called, Federación Wrestling. I thought it was more elaborate than that, but if he pops up on AEW, then you got to get their permission, and who knows. So tell you what, we're about 30 minutes into the show. Let's transition to our wrestler of the week. There's a ton more that we could talk about, but we'd be on here for 3 hours. Who's your wrestler of the week?
I really struggled.
Well, here's what I thought. I thought we could group the last 2 weeks since we've not been on. You don't have to. I'm just thinking.
Makes it even harder.
Okay, well, don't then.
So I kind of throw out some of the ones that are stuck in my head.
Okay.
I thoroughly enjoyed the Daniel Bryan Roman Reigns match.
Agreed. I hated the ending, but you kind of expected it.
Right.
But the match itself, start to finish, one of the best SmackDown matches they've had in recent memory. I'll say during COVID era.
So that one I thoroughly enjoyed. I actually thoroughly enjoyed the Shotzi Blackheart Ember Moon versus The Way. I thought that was really, really good. Mm-hmm. I enjoyed the
some of the spots that they took in that match was like, man. It still wasn't Britt Baker and Thunder Rosa in my opinion, but
I actually enjoyed the Isaiah Swerve Scott versus Leon Ruff match. That one had the one spot in it. I forget the name of that move, where it's like a backwards hurricanrana.
Just reverse Rana off the.
Yeah, and he did it off the ring apron, and I thought Isaiah Swerve Scott just sold that so well. I actually, interestingly enough, my wrestler of the week is a loser this week.
Okay,
my wrestler of the week is Daniel Bryan.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that the match that they put on SmackDown was probably one of the best week-to-week main events I've seen in a while, from especially the WWE banner. AEW's been known to kind of have some of those. This should have been a pay-per-view match, kind of match on a weekly episodic show.
Right.
SmackDown's not, especially with Roman Reigns involved. I just thought it was really, really good. And I haven't seen Daniel Bryan have a match like that in a while, where I actually believed that even though storyline didn't look like it would allow him to win, that there were spots where I believed he could have. I'm reading rumors now that he might even be heading to NXT after a small little break. I think that would be kind of cool if they did that. Be shocked if they did, but we'll see what happens. But I ended up going with Daniel Bryan as my wrestler of the week.
So, mine is a sleeper pick. And I went all the way back to the last podcast that we had. So, 21st, Wednesday night, my wrestler of the week also goes to a loser. My wrestler of the week goes to Jungle Boy.
Okay.
The match with him and Darby.
Yeah, was really good.
It was very good. But this makes the second time I thought AEW really missed the boat on taking that belt off Darby. Now, to me, it's pretty apparent what they're trying to do. I think eventually, well, I'm not going to jump the gun. I'll save what I was going to say for our subject to change segment a little later. But yeah, I went with Jungle Boy. And it's really saying something because I don't even know if that's been his best AEW match. I mean, he's had quite a few good matches. His match with, was it Dax, the singles match? Was it Dax or Cash that he wrestled?
Dax.
I thought it was Dax.
Yeah.
But that match was really good. I mean, he's obviously had really good matches with Luchasaurus and tag matches. So that's really saying something. If you get my wrestler of the week that was from 2 weeks ago and it wasn't even your best AEW match, pretty telling in my opinion. I think eventually he's going to bulk up a little bit. I'm sure he's hitting the gym already, but I think once he bulks up a little more, I would not be at all surprised to see him in the world title picture. And we've said this before, 3 years from now.
Right.
So let's talk about some of our unpopular opinions. I've got a few of them. I'm okay with you going first. I'm okay with me going first.
I'll let you kick it off.
Okay. So I said this already. I read that a lot of people on social media were ripping on the NXT women's tag title change. I mean, a lot of people.
Yeah.
I was completely fine with it. I mean, I actually prefer that they won the belts. My reasoning is simple. Shotzi and Ember Moon were just kind of thrown together. At least Indy and Candice, A, are in a faction together, but B, they've tagged together on the independent scene before. I really feel like this is something that NXT Women's Tag Title needs, is a consistent tag team that have tagged together before. And I really would like to see them have a lengthy run with the titles. I feel like lately NXT is kind of, and maybe this is some of the people on social media, maybe their reasoning for not liking the change. It seems like they've been doing a lot of hot potato with the belts lately on NXT. But in this instance, totally okay with it. Actually, I'm pretty happy with it. If they give them a lengthy run, I think you need to really, I think in general with NXT, I think you need to have all of your champions have lengthy runs with championships, just because it gives it that more. It gives it more intrigue, kind of like it did in the 80s and 90s, early 90s, whenever belts weren't changing hands every month.
So, totally agree with you. I think you and I we have a pretty good idea of what we like in wrestling. So we're pretty similar in a lot of opinions, but it doesn't mean that it's not unpopular, because when you go on social media, it's like, oh my goodness, I can't believe this. I saw the same comments, and I was just kind of like mind blown. I'm in some of these wrestling groups and whatnot, and someone literally said that the NXT women's division is destroyed now, and that now AEW's women's division is better. And I was like, how does one group winning the belts make a whole division better in a whole nother company.
Well, that's what we do as wrestling fans. I mean, you and I have done it before. We embellish whenever something doesn't go the way we want it. So,
and I was just, and he ends up saying he's a Shotzi fan, so it made sense that he was upset. But if anything, this opens the door for Shotzi, and I was trying to get people to understand when they introduced the WWE Tag Women belts, just in WWE in general, who they put it on. Bayley and Sasha. Why? Because it made the belts relevant. It made it more of a bigger feel. Now, Bayley and Sasha had somewhat of a tag team, but they hadn't wrestled their whole entire careers as a tag team together. Not like the Riot Squad or what's their names? The Iconics. There was other teams that were actual teams.
Yeah.
And they kind of put it on Bayley and Sasha because it elevated. They didn't hold them that long. They just elevated the titles. I think Shotzi and Ember having the belts makes the belts feel big. It makes it feel like it's a title worth winning. And then you go and put it on the way. And this kind of feels like what they did when they put the belts on the Iconics. We're going to finally put it on an actual team.
Agreed.
They're going to win. They're not always going to win clean, but they're going to be comedic. They're going to make the interesting storylines. It's going to be fun.
That's the point. It's going to be more entertaining, not just in the ring.
Right. There's going to be a lot more that goes with it. And then in the process, you just freed up 2 top star women talents. You have Ember Moon, who has a name already.
Yep.
Shotzi, who has independent name value on top of the fact that she's already started to build herself in NXT. Shotzi versus Raquel, Ember versus Raquel. You're telling me that those aren't NXT takeover-esque type matches and storylines to come about?
Right. And not to mention, at this point, if Candice gets an NXT women's title shot, it's almost a foregone conclusion. Well, she's not going to win because how many shots has she had?
Right.
So, yeah, I'm totally okay with this. And I agree. That's a good point as far as you're freeing up Ember immediately in the NXT women's title picture. Shotzi Blackheart has not really been in that picture, but it's a fresh face in that title picture. So,
I mean, name 3 other challengers. In NXT right now, I mean, I like Frankie Monet. I think eventually that'll be there, but
I'm actually quite underwhelmed at this point with her.
They're slow building her, and
it's very slow.
And so like eventually she'll be there, but other than that, there's really, I mean, unless you're gonna have a Dakota Kai turn, there's really not much to pick from right now. So I'm kind of like,
and I wouldn't even. I'm going as far as to say is they kind of just threw Mercedes Martinez into this picture. I'm not feeling it. It's just.
I think the match is going to be good.
I hope,
but it's right. It's a quick shot. It's a quick shot storyline, and I'm interested to see what they build now that Shotzi and Ember are freed up.
And just a piggyback comment that Drew made, I 100% agree. He said, LOL, no offense to AEW's women's division, but they have some room to grow. NXT has more women's talent, in my opinion. I agree.
The best.
Which is weird because AEW's women's roster, I think, is bigger than NXT's in terms of the number.
Oh, yeah, for sure. But NXT has the best roster of women, period. I don't think, like, even when you look at, and yes, I know, like, other rosters have a bigger talent and a better talent, but consistency is key in your roster. If you don't have a next man up, there's a problem. And when you look at the Raw women's roster, who's the next woman up? Right now, you have all 3 of them in the title picture.
I was going to add something to that. If you don't have a next group of men or women ready to come up, you've got a problem.
And when you're looking at Raw, you have the 3 that should be in that picture already in the picture. There's really not, I mean, you could throw Shayna maybe in there, Nia maybe just because she's been there before. But other than that, you really don't have a whole lot to pick from. SmackDown, Bianca Belair, Bayley, Sasha.
Yeah, when she comes back.
That's real. I mean, Carmella, like, there's a few names that you could kind of throw in there, but they're not ready now. And when you look at the NXT women's division, you're looking at Raquel, Dakota Kai, Ember Moon, Shotzi Blackheart, Io Shirai, and then you bring in some of these other names that they're already building up. Toni Storm's there. So there's a lot more names, and then they have the Zoe Stark and Saray and Xia Li that they have a cool storyline going with right now. Like, so there's a lot. Drew said Tegan Knox when she comes back. I mean, they just have so many more names to go with in the women's NXT division than any other division that I see right now.
Real quick, and this is somewhat off topic. I've not watched all of SmackDown, actually, for quite some time, but Sasha hasn't came back yet since Mania. I don't think. I said when she comes back, but then I thought, I don't think she's come back yet.
I want to say, and I could be wrong on this, for some reason I feel like she had came out the very week afterwards, but maybe not. I know Bianca's made reference to her, obviously, like, you know, that she respected her, stuff like that, but there's not been a match or a new storyline or anything.
Okay. So, you're up.
Well, Drew actually segues into mine very easily.
Oh, man.
Because the internet is just ticked off about this. The evolution. Eva Marie makes her vignette, like, return, whatever you want to call it, on Raw. I thought this was interesting because I really thought she was going back to NXT, and the rumors were that she was going to be managing that Parker Bordeaux guy.
Let's put it this way. Raw is the last place of the three I thought she'd wind up. If not NXT, I thought she'd wind up on SmackDown. I don't know why.
So here's my thoughts on that, though. Really, SmackDown and Raw, they're both in the same position. They only have 3 or 4 women that are, like, elevated up to be more than a tag team wrestler. So it's like, okay, what do we do? Well, I think the Raw women's title picture is in way more danger because Bianca just won it.
Yeah.
And Bianca is set up to hold that belt for a while. So it doesn't really matter who they bring up against her. She's going to be holding it.
Yeah.
Where Rhea, I felt like Rhea wasn't necessarily the one scheduled to win the belt. And I don't want to get too far ahead of myself, but I wouldn't be shocked if she drops the belt at some point, and I'll talk about that later on Subject to Change.
Yep.
But bringing Eva up now into Raw actually makes a lot of sense if she's ready. And I think that's the preface that I have to put here. I don't know why people are mad. People are trying to spin this like, well, they let the Iconics and Mickie James go to bring in Eva. Eva signed back in October.
Yeah, the rumor's been she's been signed for months. She's just sitting at home.
They've just been waiting for the right time. The problem with this is that, one, let's just get the honest truth out here. Mickie James is not a talent that you need on your roster right now. The last title shot storyline she had with Asuka or whatever was terrible. And it was because of Mickie James. Not her mic work, not her personality, not her legendary career. It was her current in-ring ability that was not good. Her chick kick or whatever it's called, missed. It was a botch every single time. It was terrible. So, like, there's no reason why we should even compare Eva being signed and keeping Mickie to the same degree. The Iconics, I'm a little bit more on the fence about. Billie Kay really plays no role into this because Eva's on Raw. So it wasn't like they had anything for Billie Kay to still do on SmackDown anyways, if this is the case. Peyton Royce makes me a little frustrated just because I think they had something with Peyton that they let go. But how do we know that those two didn't want released? You don't know the background story of why someone gets released. They just got released. It could have been a mutual agreement that happened there.
Yep.
So I'm not mad that Eva's getting an opportunity to re-shine again or put herself back out there again. I think it's a good move for WWE to try to bring in someone fresh. Now, hopefully they do the right thing and build her right. Because her in-ring ability, unless she's extremely improved over the years, which I kind of actually find it hard to believe that she hasn't. Otherwise, why bring her back? So there's obviously a reason she's there. If she has not extremely improved, hopefully they set her up in storylines and positions to still be a power player type woman in that division without having to be this, like, you know, Sasha Banks, Charlotte Flair type mentality. But the fact that people are mad that she's back, I think it's a great idea. It's a fresh face, fresh storyline. It's
instant heel credibility too, just for that reason.
If it has a very similar gimmick to Carmella's right now, that's the only thing I'm kind of like, it kind of seems Carmella-ish right now. But if anything, if she kind of botches in the singles, that's a way to tag her up with Carmella, make another women's tag team for the tag division. So I'm kind of like, no, there's really not a lose-lose. There's not a loss here to be taken if they do the right thing creative with her.
Norberto Vega is very, very upset. Last 3 comments. She's trash. She's still trash. I don't care why she's back.
But you don't know. But and I'm not trying to be disrespectful to your opinion. I'm just saying you don't really know what she is right now.
Yeah, none of us do.
WWE, in my opinion, usually doesn't bring somebody back that young who didn't really have that good of a career if they didn't see something change. Drew McIntyre, for instance, he was gold when they first had him. They just couldn't figure out how to get him over.
Yeah.
He goes and gets himself over, brings back, and now he's their top star.
Sometimes you got to do that. You got to get out from under Vinnie Mac's creative shadow, if you will, and go make something of yourself, and then you'll either be brought back or, now you could go to AEW, but eventually the ultimate goal is to be on national TV and, let's just be quite honest, make your money, get those zeros on your contract. So, what's another one of mine? Okay, so real quick, and I don't have a long-winded explanation, but I am okay with Kenny Omega winning the Impact Championship. Again, nothing long-winded, just other than to say it provides further intrigue to this, belt collector gimmick spiel, whatever he's wanting to do. I don't actually expect him to lose. Let's put it this way. As soon as he loses one of those belts, the gimmick spiel, whatever you want to call it, it's done. It's over. I feel like for some of us marks, if you will, like myself, it kind of gives me hope that we might see like a Kenny Omega Will Ospreay match for the IWGP title. I mean, Yuji Nagata's coming over to wrestle Moxley next week for the U.S. title on AEW. An IWGP title is being defended on AEW television. So it just, all of those things mingled together kind of makes me hopeful that we'll see something of magnitude like that. That, we'll actually see a world champion versus world champion, or maybe like I don't know if this match would be as good, but like a Kenny Omega versus Nick Aldis, something like that. So, I didn't watch the entire pay-per-view. I did watch the Kenny Rich Swann match. It was pretty good, especially for not being in front of a crowd. What was that? Oh, I loved hearing Mauro Ranallo commentating on a match again. Again, if there were crowds, and if you had, having Mauro on commentary, that thing could have been a 5-star match. I probably, if you were to ask me how many stars I would have given it just based on what it was, I probably would have said 4.25. I think Meltzer gave it 4.5. It was a good match, in my opinion. But anyway, I digress. Totally okay with that. With that title change occurring.
Yeah, the belt collector thing is an interesting gimmick, because you're able to do that right now with the crossovers and talent share and all that stuff. It's an interesting gimmick. I don't know how you get away from it. I don't know at what point do you say, okay, this is over. How do we restore the Impact title back to Impact? And who's the guy to beat Kenny to do that? How do you restore the AAA title back to AAA? And who's the guy to do that? Same with AEW. Who's the guy to beat Kenny in AEW?
Oh, I got a really super good question for our fan mail later that I got ahead of time. We'll get there.
I'll give you one more.
Yeah, let's
unpopular opinion.
Let's do one more.
I actually completely dislike 100% this Alexa Bliss storyline right now.
So far, I agree.
And a lot of people are like into it. The whole Lily thing, I think, is kind of stupid.
It's. I agree. Continue. Sorry.
And honestly, I really feel like it killed the Fiend's thing. At first, I was all about Alexa Bliss being with him. I thought they were doing some really creative, cool things. Was super pumped about an Alexa Bliss Fiend character, as long as she was with the Fiend. Not she's the Fiend without the Fiend, but the Fiend's the Fiend, and it just doesn't make a whole lot of sense to split them up the way they did. The Fiend's been off TV except for one Firefly Funhouse episode the same night that they did in Alexa's Playground. And I don't even know where it's leading to. It's almost like they've separated the two storylines now, because she's talking about going after a female wrestler of sorts. And I saw the Easter egg that they actually had her Lily doll in the background of the Sonya Deville, Adam Pearce little debacles. So I'm curious if she's going after Sonya or if she's going after maybe Charlotte Flair. You know, if she's going to be one of those women wrestlers to step up in the Raw locker room or whatever. But I'm just kind of like, this whole gimmick is starting to get old already for Alexa because there's no Fiend to back it up now.
Because it's not her gimmick.
Right.
It's a stolen, not stolen, but it's a, I'll say borrowed, not being generous with that term. It's a borrowed gimmick that she is, we've said this before. If you can take a gimmick, even if it's not yours, even if it's not original, and run with it, great. Awesome. If you can make it better, fantastic. Alexa is doing the exact opposite. It just feels like it's stale. It doesn't feel like it's going anywhere. And because it's not her original gimmick, it just feels like it's falling flat. So much so that I'm wondering, is this just going to delay the Fiend coming back because it's like she's replacing him? Not in storyline, but just replacing him in terms of that creative spot, if that makes any sense. It's like, is this just going to drag out and delay the Fiend returning? Is he, like, I don't know, but it's like the longer this drags out, the less impactful, for lack of a better term and no pun intended, the least, what am I trying to say? The less impactful that it's going to feel if and when Fiend returns.
She complimented the Fiend very well, so that's why I was like, okay, if they're together, this makes sense. Like I get it, I like it, and if there was that like vibe to her when she took over the women's division, I would have been like, okay, cool. Like I was cool with that.
Yeah.
Now that she has like her own TV show ish, kind of like the Firefly Funhouse with Alexa's Playground, I was like, okay, I see what you're doing here, but why not just have her appear on the Firefly Funhouse? Right. So when they started doing that, I was like, okay, I don't really like where that's headed. Then when they had Randy Orton just beat him the way he did, and they played the storyline like she was turning on him, and then they kind of were on commentary, no, she was reaching out to him. Then she did turn on him, and I'm like, I just don't understand the why behind it, and it keeps killing. I really don't understand why you keep killing the Fiend's momentum. Every single time he gains momentum, it's like, okay, we're gonna kill it off because he's starting to become too unbeatable, too unbelievable to be beaten. Well,
Here's another thing, and we don't have to be long-winded about this. We have not seen the Fiend since Mania, have we?
Like I said, he did the Firefly Funhouse like after Mania. On that Raw, they had a Alexa's Playground and a Firefly Funhouse, and he addressed like that he wasn't really happy about her turning on him, and you know he thought that we were friends and all this other stuff. And then we really haven't seen him since. And I'm like,
but that wasn't as the Fiend. That was just as Bray Wyatt.
Yeah. Right.
So okay, well, nonetheless, tell you what, let's just transition a little bit.
Promotional consideration paid for by the following.
So, usually at this point of the show, I go through this spiel about, follow or like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, follow us on Instagram, subscribe to our YouTube channel, et cetera, et cetera. You can still do all those things. Everything's scrolling across the bottom of your screen right now. Facebook.com/Going Broadway Podcast. I'm not going to go through all of them. You can see them scrolling across the bottom of your screen. The point is, like our Facebook page, follow us on Twitter, follow us on Instagram, subscribe to our YouTube channel. If you do all four of those things, we still plan on doing a 3 free belt giveaway. If you do all four of those, you get 4 entries into that. We will do that giveaway once we get to 5,000 Facebook likes. Last I checked, we were around 4,500, 4,550, something like that. So a little ways to go. We do have a Patreon page as well, patreon.com/Going Broadway Podcast. Please check us out if you want to consider becoming a monthly contributor to our Patreon. We would sincerely appreciate it. We do have 4 tiers you can choose from. All of them have their own perks and benefits, et cetera, et cetera. You can get discounted merch, free merch, additional giveaway entries. The reason I sped through that is because I'm excited to debut our new shirt design this morning. These are, let's try that again, rewind. These are our Great American Bash parody shirts, or maybe I'll call them tribute shirts. Parody is not the right word. These are Going Broadway Podcast / Great American Bash tribute shirts. So they do come in a dark gray and a light gray t-shirt and hoodie with the red, white, and blue design. So these will be perfect for 4th of July. Again, They're $25 shipped for a t-shirt plus applicable taxes, $50 shipped plus applicable taxes for a hoodie. Don't know if we'll get too many orders for hoodies this time of year, but you never know. You might want to have one handy just in case your house gets cold. They also come in our standard black, green, white themed colors of our podcast. So these by far, and no disrespect to the shirt that Cole's got on right now, but these are my favorite design that we've had thus far. So if you're interested in any of those, let me know. Just one second. I have copies of them today.
Oh, snap.
So, don't know if you can see this or not, but that is the dark gray with the black and the green. If they'll stay here. This is the light gray.
That one looks great.
With the black and green.
Love the light one.
Dark gray with the red and white and blue. Again, guys, these will be perfect for 4th of July.
Oh, yeah. This one looks great, too.
And then the light gray with the red, white, and blue. And those are all for you, sir.
Oh, my goodness. Look at this. Look at this guy. Wow.
I had some made for myself, too.
Getting all these. I'm getting gifted up today. Man.
So, seriously, guys, if you're interested in any of those shirts, they are made to order, so it would be about a month turnaround time to get them ordered and shipped to you, et cetera, et cetera. But if you want them, get them in time for 4th of July. Now's the time to do it. I said a month turnaround. I'd say 4 to 5 week turnaround, if I'm being 100% honest, just because they are made to order. Again, $25 shipped plus applicable taxes for a t-shirt, $50 shipped plus applicable. I always screw that word up. $50 shipped plus applicable taxes for a hoodie. Get them for 4th of July, guys. Again, I'll throw these up one more time. Our Great American Bash tribute shirts, they do come in red, white, and blue. And they also come in our green, white, and black. So, I do want to answer a question real quick that someone sent. We've not done our AW belt keyword yet this morning. But just to reiterate, each week leading up to our double or nothing double or nothing watch party at the end of the month, each Wednesday we're going to be giving a keyword, and all you have to do is reply with that keyword live on our show. Each week that you do that, you get one entry into that AEW belt giveaway we're going to do on that watch party. You can get a 5th entry if you join us live that night and reply with multiple keywords throughout the night. So just if that makes sense, just by replying once on each of our live podcasts for the next 4 Wednesdays, today included, you can get up to 4 entries that way. And you can get a 5th entry by replying with multiple keywords throughout the night during the watch party itself. So, to answer the question, we've not given away that that word yet. I'm not going to say it when we're going to do it. It's just going to be, if you're watching the podcast live, you're fortunate enough to be live whenever we announce it. That's why we say check out our show. Hang out with us throughout the show. And if you're watching live, reply with the word, and you'll get your free entry for that Wednesday. So, subject to change. Now, you mentioned at least one example of a title change you think might be on the horizon. Why don't you tell us a little bit about that?
So, first off, I have to make mention, when we're starting to talk about title belts, let's look at just the WWE picture as a whole. I believe, and you could correct me if I'm wrong, on SmackDown and Raw together, there's only one face champion, period. That would be Bianca Belair.
I think you're right, because I remember looking after WrestleMania, I was like, man, we don't have a lot of...
Dirty Dogs are the SmackDown Tag Champions. Apollo Crews is the Intercontinental. Roman Reigns, main champion. Women's tag belts, Shayna and Nia. Rhea Ripley's playing a heel right now on Raw.
Well, which is weird because fans are actually being... So in the Thunderdome, like the Thunderdome fans are actually being told to cheer her, like, because they'll tell people, not to get off topic, WWE people that work for WWE, before they go live, they give instruction to people that are viewing via the Thunderdome. A rumor that I read, actually, I don't think it's a rumor, I think it was a fact, that they were being told to cheer Rhea Ripley, which is kind of like,
I guess you could call her a tweener.
yeah.
But so there's her. Then you go to the Raw Tag Champions, or AJ and Omos, heels.
So we're not including NXT, though. We're just talking about Raw and SmackDown.
Just talking Raw and SmackDown right now. US,
yeah, you're right.
Sheamus, and then you have Bobby Lashley as the champion. So I foresee WrestleMania Backlash being a swerve of maybe 1 or 2 title changes.
Okay.
Though, because they're doing 2 triple threat matches, both Raw triple threat matches, I see one being a different winner and one being the same winner. I don't think it's time to take the belt off Bobby Lashley yet. It is getting dry, but I think there are some matches that need to come out of it first before you move on from him. So I think Bobby's going to retain. I think however that happens, we'll do our predictions later on. I think
that'll actually be next week, I think.
I think he'll retain. I think Rhea, in some form, I don't think she was generally picked to win over Asuka. I think Charlotte was going to win at Mania, and COVID hit and everything went the way it did, especially with Sonya Deville playing this like kind of fourth wheel in this match and kind of being on Charlotte's side. I wouldn't be shocked to see Charlotte win this in a dirty way.
Man, that'll get...
I wouldn't be shocked.
By the way, I'm going to stop you. Norberto Vega asked, what is a tweener? A tweener is a character who is portrayed as being morally neutral or ambiguous. Usually tweeners will attack both heels and faces simultaneously. Thank you, Google machine.
Oh, I was like, did you just come up with that? I was like, man, put that in the wrestling dictionary. Okay. So, yeah, I think for me, I think Rhea was transitional. I think it was like, okay, Asuka is definitely stale. We need her to lose the belt at Mania. But what do we do if Charlotte isn't the one to beat her? Rhea was a good replacement.
Right.
I don't like the idea of taking the belt off of her, but I think that the way things are booking and way things are going, it's going to make the most logical sense to put it on Charlotte. So
okay.
that is one that I foresee for sure.
I didn't mean to exit out of this. Hang on a second. All right, so I don't necessarily know if it's going to happen next week, but I would venture to say, because this segment we usually say within a month or so. Now, I'm going to extend that a little bit just because of COVID restrictions and things like that. But I would say within the next month and a half, 2 months, that Jon Moxley drops the IWGP US title. I don't know to who. I don't know if it's going to be to Yuji Nagata next week. But I don't really have a reason other than it just feels like just a hunch, kind of like the same hunch I had with, Indy and Candice winning the tag belts last night. It just, sometimes my hunches are right, sometimes they're wrong, but to me, it just seems like it's time.
Well, I mean, look at storyline. Who is he involved with on AEW right now? Him and Eddie are involved with Kenny. They have a tag match the following week with Kenny and Nakazawa or whatever his name is. They could interfere in that match, cost John the belt on AEW. I mean, what better place for him to lose the belt than where he signed? So, I don't think that's an unreasonable thing to say that it could be next week.
And for those of you familiar, I mean, Yuji Nagata is not he's not a sleeper pick to win the IWGP US title. I mean, he has been he was in WCW for a little while in the mid 90s. But he's primarily a strong style type wrestler. If any of you are subscribed to New Japan World, that's their subscription service. They posted on Twitter a clip from a match he had with, I want to say it's Hiroshi Hase, but that match was brutal. I mean, super hard hitting, like getting color the hard way. For those of you who don't know what that means bleeding the hard way. Just insane. I mean, I only watched the highlights. I mean, I'm sure somewhere you could go watch the bootleg uploaded version. I don't have New Japan World, but if any of you do, go look up that match. I want to say it was from 2004 or maybe it was 14. I don't remember, but either way, I mean, he's a legitimate contender for it. You got any more?
I'm going to give you two more. One, I think, is just clearly it's going to happen.
Okay.
And that's the New Day winning the tag, not the New Day, the Street Profits winning the tag belts off of the Dirty Dogs. I just see that happening. Probably at WrestleMania Backlash will be the match. I think there's a lot to do with with Bianca Belair as the women's champion and them holding the tag belts. A lot of vignettes and promos and stuff that they'll do for fun. So I definitely think that that's already in the cards. You can see that plain as day. The other one that I want to bring up is Sheeta. I think Sheeta is going to lose the women's belt to Britt Baker.
You took mine.
It's stale. It's overdone. There's not many more matches you can do with her where she wins.
How many matches has she had with Nyla Rose?
Nyla Rose,
3, 4?
At least three, if not four.
I mean, my goodness,
She's fought Thunder Rosa already. I mean,
yeah, I mean,
Conti. Who else do you have her beat? And then, like, at some point, she's got to have a viable contender to lose to, and I think Britt Baker's the perfect one.
It goes back to our conversation earlier about the AEW women's division. Who's next in line? Right. Britt Baker? Who else?
I mean, they ran out of so many that they went to Abaddon. And I told you I was interested to see what they did with her because she's a very interesting character. But like they got so desperate that they started going down to like people who were on Dark more than they were on AEW television.
Yeah. So that was the one I had. I could probably come up with another one. So next, it was announced that next week there are going to be a couple of title matches on NXT. One of them is going to be a 2 out of 3 falls with Kushida against Santos Escobar. I wouldn't be surprised if they put it back on Escobar just because.
Right.
Not saying they will. Again, you took mine, so I'm just kind of pulling a rabbit out of the hat.
That match could potentially have a match of the year candidate, though.
Yeah. Agreed. I'm trying to think off the top of my head. I don't see anything happening with Impact anytime soon because they just had a bunch of title changes on Rebellion.
That's what's hard with NXT, though, too, because NXT, pretty much every title has changed since that TakeOver. They had every title change on TakeOver for the most part, and then they just had the women's belts change, the tag belts change, too. So it's like, I don't think you can have any of them really change over in NXT.
Just a second. Let's see. You know what? Let's just move on to our fan mail segment. And I have a question that we got submitted ahead of time that I want to read. Now, I've had a chance to think about it, so I'll give you my thoughts on it. And while I'm giving my thoughts on it, I'll have Colby thinking on
so it's gonna be deep.
Just his picks. Well, it's not deep. It requires a little bit of thinking. So shout out to David Tilley. He's one of our Platinum Patreon members. He says, if you could pick who all of the next champions in AEW will be, who would you pick to be the next AEW World, TNT, Tag, and Women's Champions? And how long would it be till they're crowned? So one of them's easy. We just touched on it. The women's champion, I think it's going to be Britt Baker. I think it's going to be at Double or Nothing.
Yeah.
I think it'd be insane if it were sooner than that. I think it'd be even more insane if they don't do it then, if it's after that. TNT champion, I think they're going to put it on Ethan Page or Scorpio Sky. I mean, it's pretty apparent what they're setting that up. I really think they should have went with Scorpio Sky, but if they do put it on Ethan Page, I mean, I can see, being a dynamic where Scorpio turns back face again, or maybe they put it on Scorpio and then Ethan turns it becomes a face, however they want to do it. But I'm going to go with Ethan Page. I don't know if it happens at Double or Nothing. If they're going to make it happen, they're going to have to announce it soon, I would think. I mean, because usually, I say usually, WWE logic would disagree, but usually you announce your title matches somewhat in advance. I mean, we already said it. Double or Nothing is at the end of the month, so that's like less than 4 weeks, I think. 3.5 weeks, something like that. Yeah. I mean, I guess it could happen at Double or Nothing. I'm going to go out on a limb and say I think Ethan Page does win at Double or Nothing. They've not announced the match yet. It just seems like, I don't know. It's the TNT Championship, so maybe it will change on TV. I'm going to retract that. I'm going to say it happens maybe a week or two after the pay-per-view. I don't think we'll see any title changes prior to the pay-per-view. As far as the tag champions, I'm going to save that one for last. The AEW World Championship, I don't think it'll be for a while, but I think inevitably it's going to be Hangman Page to take it off of Kenny. It might be whatever pay-per-view comes after Double or Nothing. I forgot which one that is.
Fighter Fest?
No, well, after that one.
So it'd be all in?
No, well,
or because Fighter Fest is usually like a month or two after, and then I guess it'd be February.
It'd be Full Gear, I think.
Full Gear. That's what yep.
No, you're right. It'd be All Out.
All Out.
Yeah.
That's what I meant.
So maybe it'd be at All Out, because I like how they say that Double or Nothing is kind of like their version of WrestleMania. To me, All Out almost feels more so, just because it started with the All In pay-per-view. I don't know. That's just my logic. So I think Hangman Page eventually wins it from Kenny. Won't be within. I mean, I'd give it at least a few months. I mean, if not even going into maybe as far as next. Well, let's put it this way. I think it would only happen on a pay-per-view. I don't think we'll see an AEW World Title change on TV, not anytime soon, anyway. So it'd have to happen either at All Out or Full Gear. I'm on the fence as far as whether or not we'll see it this year. I mean, it might carry for a good while. If we do see it, I think All Out might be a little bit soon. But to me, Full Gear just doesn't feel big enough, and I don't have a way of better explaining that. So, Steven says he should drop it at Double or Nothing 2022. I don't completely disagree with that. So, let's see. The tag belts. I can tell you who I hope it would be. Even though we have not seen them on TV for a while, at least together, I'd really like to see Lucha Brothers win it. But it's almost like the Young Bucks don't really have an organized program, if that makes sense, with anybody that would, or at least not, they don't have like a hint of what's to come. I mean, they've kind of hinted at, Kenny and Hangman didn't really ever completely resolve their things. They just kind of went separate ways creatively. Kenny towards the world title, and then Hangman with stuff with the Dark Order kind of deal. So that's kind of up in the air, but it's like Young Bucks don't really have a specific, I don't know. I mean, Inner Circle or Faces now, you could see Santana and Ortiz maybe get into that mix. I don't know if I really have a prediction for that one right now. Because nothing. I'll just throw a prediction out there.
David's saying if you were in charge.
So if I'm the one that's booking, well, that's easy. I would do everything I just said so far. I would probably wait till next year to put the belt on Hangman Page, and then I would have Lucha Brothers as a face tag team against the heel Bucks, and I would have Lucha Brothers win it. Maybe the same pay-per-view that Kenny loses the AEW World Title. So Double or Nothing next year. Maybe even Revolution next year.
Okay. So
sorry guys, real quick, I got to step out for like 2 minutes, but you can go ahead.
So for me, this is tough. Obviously with the women's, I would say Britt Baker over Sheeta, and I think that's going to happen very soon, probably by Double or Nothing, for her. For the TNT Championship, that one I struggle with. Just because there's so many people to pick from. For the TNT, I'm actually going to say the Murder Hawk, Lance Archer, just because he's kind of in a program with Sting already too, so I think that's an easy transition to make that happen, and I think he's overdue for a title, so I'm going to go Lance Archer for the TNT. If I'm for Kenny Omega, I'm actually going to say Christian Cage, just because I don't know what else you can do with Christian. I mean, you can elevate some of the other talent like he's doing. He's still getting the win though. I think Christian Cage versus Kenny would just be something that we would like to see before Christian's done. And if someone's going to beat Kenny where it's going to be okay, I think Christian is a good pick. So I'm going to go Christian Cage on the Kenny and Christian match. And then the tag division is so hard because they have so many great tag teams. Kind of stuck between three. I'm stuck between Jurassic Express. I'm stuck between the Lucha Bros and Best Friends. So, Alex, so far I went with Britt Baker beating Sheeta, obviously. I went with Lance Archer, the Murder Hawk, beating Darby Allin.
Okay.
I think that makes sense because he's kind of in a program with Sting, and Sting told him, go be the guy. Like, stop making excuses. Go be the guy. So I think that's a great way to segue him into a title for once. For the AEW Championship, I said Christian Cage. I think Christian versus Kenny would be a match people would want to see. And if there's going to be someone that people are okay with Kenny losing to, I think Christian Cage is a safe bet.
Okay.
The tag division, like you were, I'm struggling with because there's kind of stuck between Lucha Bros, Jurassic Express, and Best Friends. Those three, all of them, I'm fans of. I like them. I think ultimately I'd like to see. I'm more of a fan of the Lucha Bros, but they're all kind of going their separate ways in a sense. I'm going to say Best Friends. I think Best Friends would be an interesting way to keep them relevant, keep Orange Cassidy relevant. And I think they've done a lot for their tag division that they deserve a payoff at some point.
Okay. Cool. So if you guys have any questions, go ahead and send them in. I'll just read this one that's right up, like dead center of my screen. Drew asked, do you think Brian Cage gets a shot at Omega soon? I would love to see that, but I think that's kind of, that almost seems like you need to have a program. I mean, that's a big match in my opinion. That's not just something you throw together.
The problem I have with that is that Brian Cage doesn't come out victorious in that match currently.
That's what I'm saying.
If we were to have a program where it would be believable for Brian Cage to win, I'm not saying that he should win. I'm just saying to have a match where I know he's not going to win.
Yeah.
And it's just going to be a good match that I know he's not going to win.
Well, now, in all fairness, I'm going to backtrack a little bit. If you would have told me that Brian Cage was going to beat Hangman Page, was that last week or the week before? I just said, no way, Hangman Page is winning that match. Brian Cage won and he won clean.
Right.
So
I'm not saying he would. I'm just saying with the current program with Kenny right now, especially if we're putting the belt on the line. Now, if we're talking no title, then maybe it would be really a great match, and I could believe that Brian Cage could win a non-title. But because of what they're doing with Kenny, I really don't want to see that program yet, just because I want it to be when it's closer to the time that we think Kenny would drop a belt, so I could actually believe that Brian Cage should win. I think Brian Cage is one of their most underutilized talents. I really hope that the teases of him breaking away from Team Taz are true and that they happen, because I think the whole Team Taz thing is stupid. I don't like it at all. So I'm kind of hoping they do something with him, but they already did him and Darby for a while, so you can't really throw him in the TNT title picture either. So interested to see what they do with him.
Let's see. Joey asks, how do you like Roman's new theme? Not a fan, especially since they've worked on it for like 6 months. I expected it to be more. Well, let's put it this way. I feel like the piano in it is too much. It just feels too lackluster or underwhelming. I expected something to be more punchy. Not exactly the same as the old Shield theme, obviously, but something that's like, I mean, his gimmick is head of the table. It doesn't feel like that. It doesn't feel like head of the table. It just feels more like a watered down version of like the Godfather movie or something like that. It doesn't feel big or punchy enough. And I know it's not as descriptive as I'm trying to want. It's not as descriptive as I want it to be, but it's because they've been working on it for so long. I expected more.
So it's really just a playoff of his old theme, though. Like, it literally has the guitar riff in it. It's kind of like remixed in a way or whatever. I was really hoping they were going to like completely 180 his gimmick. Like with the head of the table, Samoan bloodline kind of gimmick that they were pitching with him and Jay. And eventually I believe Jimmy will be in that as well when the time comes. I really thought they were going to go something more Samoan. And with the gimmick change, kind of gimmick change his look too. And I'm not saying you go all Samoan, have him come out in like a Hawaiian shirt, whatever you want to call it. Like whatever it is that you're gonna do. Like I don't think that that's the route, but I kind of like when he was winning the belt, or when he was winning his matches, when they were putting the necklace on him and kind of had that more tribal chief gimmick.
Right.
I was expecting something more tribal and more Samoan tribal, along those lines. And that you could have brought back Jimmy and Jay with their tribal dance that they used to do when they came out. I think you could have rejuvenated them into that kind of character again, kind of go back to their roots of when they started as a tag team. So I was kind of expecting, I'm not going to say I dislike it. It's nice to have a fresh change in his music because we've had that music for years now. So it's nice to have something fresh, but it just kind of caught me off guard because if you're going to change his music, I would have done the 180. Like I would have head of the table, Samoan tribal, really pitch into that tribal chief thing.
No, it makes sense. Steven asks, what about the SCU breakup? Could the Bucks end SCU kind of like what Sean did with Flair?
100%. It's going to
really
100% SCU's breaking up.
You don't think it'll be some kind of like a swerve or? I mean, they're still playing off that gimmick. The next time they lose, they're done.
It's too soon. So again,
no, I'm not saying they'll win the belts off the Bucks. I'm just saying it might be some kind of like SCU wins by count out or DQ or something like that.
I just don't see it happening. I honestly, I think they're wanting to break them up. I don't really know why. They really have no value to the roster as singles wrestlers at this point in their career. But I
mean, we know that CD does stuff backstage. He's like, I mean, it's not a gimmick. He is head of talent relations or whatever the title is backstage. So he has that. I mean, he might be winding down his career anyway.
They're both like late 40s, right? If not early 50s.
I don't think they're in their 50s yet. Well, Christopher Daniels might be. Hold on. Let me see.
I mean, they've been around a while. And I'm not saying that they're done, like they're bad in the ring. I'm just saying creatively, you have way too much talent.
So Christopher Daniels is 51.
What's Kazarian?
Probably mid 40s, I'm guessing.
Right around Christian.
Early 40s, maybe.
Christian's age, probably.
Frankie Kazarian is 43.
So Kazarian might be able to do a little bit of something. And he's
just as a reference, Kristen Cage is 47.
Yeah, I know. That's what I'm saying. Like,
wow.
Kazarian's about the same age as AJ, so I mean, probably has a little bit of life left in him. And he's the one that's kind of like, hey, I'm done once we lose as a tag team one more time. So it would be a way to build him into like a maybe mid-level talent for the TNT, something like that. So maybe something for Kazarian out of it. But it's with the storyline they're doing with the Young Bucks being with Kenny and the whole Elite or whatever you want to call that faction. I just don't see SCU winning clean. And at some point, you have to have a climax to that story. So if they win by a count out, the next time they're going to do Falls Count Anywhere or no DQ or something. And then they're going to lose because you're not going to have the Young Bucks drop to them. It just won't happen.
Let's do one or two more questions. Why don't you take one?
Let's look. So Thomas asks, why is Sammy still with Inner Circle and not getting a push for TNT title or just a push? Well, first off, they are dead set on doing this blood and guts match, so you got to get through that before you can do anything else with the Inner Circle.
Right.
The interesting thing for me, so I actually wanted to kind of go this route with David's question earlier. I actually think it'd be intriguing if the Elite kind of stacked up all the titles themselves minus the women's belt. If Kenny's doing this whole belt collector thing, why not have him win the TNT title as well?
Yeah.
And I'm just saying, just kind of throwing it out there. And here's why. Because then you could do the Elite versus the Inner Circle, which is kind of what they wanted to do at Blood and Guts the first time around anyways. They were trying to go for like Cody Rhodes and the Young Bucks and Kenny and Hangman and all of them. So now that they've kind of got the Good Brothers in on this too, you could always have Santana and Ortiz go up against the Young Bucks, and that would be an interesting program. Not to mention it would be a team that I'd be okay with beating the Young Bucks for the titles. You could have Sammy Guevara, be going for the TNT title. Now, you don't even necessarily have to have Kenny win it as the belt collector. You could have Carl Anderson win it. You could have, them add somebody to the group even, if someone was to rejoin them. So, but you could have Sammy go for the mid title. You could have Chris Jericho go back for the TNT, they're not the TNT, the AEW championship. You could have Jake Hager go for it. There's all these different avenues and stuff that could create a storyline for everyone there to kind of win titles. And I don't think the Inner Circle is going to clean house. I think Kenny keeping his belt would be the only one that would make sense. And then having the rest of that group lose their belt, so it creates dissension and all those things. So I think this only leads up for the Inner Circle to kind of rebuild what they had up again to where they can be in title contention and have some runs and whatnot with their respective people who deserve it.
I got you. We'll take one more question. Norberto asks, how long do you think it will be before they finally put a title on MJF? Well, let's put it this way. I think he's above the TNT title, so I think if he gets... he's the head of a faction, so he's kind of in that Ric Flair type role, so I don't think... If they put a championship on him, it's going to be the AEW World title. I don't feel like... Let's put it this way. If you're booking long-term, it would probably be once Hangman wins over Kenny Omega, maybe you have a Hangman MJF feud program. Maybe do it at that point. So I would say at the very earliest, I would say fall of next year.
I mean, I guess it really depends on if Pinnacle is a long-lasting faction or not. Because...
that's true.
And I had mentioned that I kind of felt like they were thrown together because they were dead set on doing this blood and guts match. And the original thing they had planned has already moved on and surpassed its storyline, so they can't go back to that.
Right.
So they're like, well, how do we do this? Well, we have MJF make his own faction because he's doing this Inner Circle gimmick anyways, so let's just have him build a faction. So I don't think at long term it makes sense to have FTR in a faction that doesn't really feel like it's going anywhere. I don't think long term it makes sense to have MJF in a faction because he's better by himself. Sean Spears is not really believable to do anything. Wardlow is obviously just MJF's bodyguard. I think I wouldn't necessarily agree that MJF is above the TNT title. If anything, I think it would elevate him now to be ready in a year and a half to be in the main title picture and be believable to win it. So I would actually not be shocked if he was someone that you could put up against Darby when all this stuff's over with and have him be the guy that beats Darby.
Okay.
So
Fair enough.
we'll see what happens there.
Thanks for the questions, guys. As we've said before, we're going to do our fan mail segment every week, and I forgot to do the sound bite. That's fine. I'll do it next week. Let's give our preview for AEW tonight. And spoiler, once we do our AEW preview for tonight, I'll give you this week's keyword to get your entry into the AEW belt giveaway that we're doing at the end of the month. I'll talk more about that in a few minutes. So far, and this is according to AEW's website itself, there are only 4 matches announced for tonight. I'm sorry, 5 matches. Now, for good reason.
Right.
So Britt Baker will be in action. It doesn't say who her opponent is. We have a 4-way tag eliminator match. SCU versus Jurassic Express versus Varsity Blondes versus The Acclaimed. We have a 1-on-1 contest, Cody Rhodes against QT Marshall. We have the tag match, Kenny Omega and Michael Nakazawa. I guess he's going by MT Nakazawa now. I don't know, it's news to me. Against Moxley and Kingston. And, of course, we've got the Blood and Guts match that has been months and months and months in the making, just with a different team involved. So we got time real quick. Let's just give some of our predictions.
Britt Baker's going to win.
Yeah, Britt Baker's going to win her match. What about this 4-way tag team eliminator match?
So it's SCU,
Jurassic Express, Varsity Blondes, and The Acclaimed.
The only one I could see foiling the plan would be Jurassic Express. I'm going to say SCU.
I am also.
I don't know why you would have them come out and cut a promo against the Bucks and then have them lose this match. At the same time, if you're wanting the Bucks to continue to win against teams that shouldn't win, you could have like a shocker with the Varsity Blondes or the Acclaimed win and then be like, oh, wow, they won sneakily, whatever, and then they put on a really great match.
Well, I assume the winner of this match gets the shot at Double or Nothing.
Right. So, the Acclaimed could kind of... The Varsity Blondes don't have enough clout, in my opinion, to be in that picture. So, I could kind of see the Acclaimed. Obviously, I could see Jurassic Express, but I think SCU makes the most sense.
I agree. Maybe it's not as obvious. Omega and Nakazawa against Moxley and Kingston. Because the belt's not on the line, and because they're probably going to progress the storyline, I would assume Moxley and Kingston gets the win here somehow.
I almost just feel like this match doesn't have a winner.
It could be that.
It just because Nakazawa's in it and he's usually not on TV, I'm just kind of like, this kind of has potential to just have like the Good Brothers or the Young Bucks come out and start beating down on people like halfway through the match. If I have to pick a winner, I would go with Kingston and Moxley.
In a match that I wouldn't be surprised if it opens the show, Cody Rhodes against QT Marshall.
I am actually going to say QT.
I was about to say, this isn't as cut and dry as most people might think. I could see a lot of people saying, well, Cody's going to win. Well,
I think it's going to be dirty. I think you're going to have Anthony Ogogo or whatever his name is, while the ref's distracted, punch Cody or something along those lines, or it's a no contest here as well, or instead. But I don't know how you can continue to have QT be the leader of this factory group or whatever and have him take an L to Cody, of all people.
Unless this is like Cody gets the win, but they attack him afterwards and completely like write him off TV, because Brandy's going to have her baby soon. And that's the only way I could see Cody winning, is if like, okay, he gets the W, but then he's off TV for a while, and this factory stable still looks dominant. Like if it's the most dangerous move in wrestling, the schoolboy, Cody gets a roll up and sneaks a win, and that's the only way I can see that happening. But I'm with you. I almost feel like the previous tag match that there's going to be an actual winner, And I feel like this match will be a no contest of some sort.
I think it's going to set up for something at Double or Nothing, whether it's the Nightmare family versus, the Factory, or if it's QT with the Factory versus Cody with the Nightmare family, or something. Maybe it's a lumberjack match between the two of them and both teams are out on their respective sides. I don't really know, but I think it's the setup, and then that could be the match that writes Cody off air, for obvious reasons. But
yeah,
I don't think you can have QT lose a match right now with them trying to make him relevant with this faction.
I'm just looking at something real quick because I'm curious about timing. So according to this article, they haven't announced an official due date, but this article was posted in late March, so about a month and a half ago. At that point, she was 6 months into her pregnancy. So right now she's at about 7.5, 8 months, depending on timing. So
end of the month, she'd be closer to 8, though. So it's only a month away from due date.
So most likely, Cody's going to get written off TV soon.
You would think Double or Nothing. Use his name to get the pay-per-view over.
Yeah, I mean, tonight might be too soon. But regardless, I still think this Factory stable comes out of it strong.
Right.
And I don't think that means QT taking a loss.
Right.
Blood and Guts. Inner Circle against the Pinnacle. Who you got?
Inner Circle.
Really?
Easily.
Really?
Yeah.
Inner Circle.
Inner Circle. Like, I don't think...
Wow.
So and the reason why is this. They threw the Pinnacle together too quick for me to then just do Blood and Guts like a month later. If they wanted me to believe the Pinnacle was going to win this match, I think there needed to be a longer storyline before we did Blood and Guts. Like, they could have saved Blood and Guts for Double or Nothing.
Okay.
And that might have helped it a little bit for me to think Pinnacle had a shot. But they really haven't even wrestled any matches since they've come out.
Okay.
I think Dax wrestled that one match for the TNT, but other than that, it's been like just not cameos, promos and vignettes, and that's it. Inner Circle is face. They're back strong. I don't know why you would ruin something like that. Unless Chris Jericho is getting ready to go on tour, which I don't know if those are back on or not. That'd be the only thing that would kind of foil this idea. But they just look too strong in their promo cutting, in their matches that they've had, everything that they've done. It just doesn't make sense to me to have Pinnacle win this.
Very interesting, because I was going to go Pinnacle on this. I don't know how. I mean, a lot of you are suggesting, like Mark said, Sammy pins MJF. There are no pinfalls. This is submit or surrender. So it's basically, I think it's War Games rules. I don't think you're gonna have a pinfall.
War Games is a pinfall.
War Games has always been submit or surrender.
I mean, if you're going off how NXT was doing War Games,
they did do pinfall, didn't they?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, either way,
it'd be nice if they went back to the old school rule of it, and they'll probably explain that tonight before we have the match. But
now here's my thought, and actually Steven beat me to it. He says there's going to be a swerve to end the show. I agree. I don't know what the swerve is, but I feel like something is going to happen. Here's why. Jericho did an interview not too long ago that basically hinted at the fact that this is actually just going to be more of the beginning of the storyline between Inner Circle and Pinnacle. I don't know if I agree with how they're booking it. I can't say I disagree because we've not seen it yet. But usually this War Games type-esque match wraps up a feud. Usually it's usually the finale. It's usually the conclusion. I'm interested to see what he means by that. If he was being honest, I mean, because you never know in wrestling. If someone gives an interview, you have to take it with a grain of salt. But let's just say it is the beginning. Something is going to have to happen. Like, I don't think there's going to be a clean, clear-cut ending as far as someone taking a pinfall or someone taking a direct submission without something happening. Now, Norberto says Jake Hager turns on the Inner Circle. I don't think I can't get on board with that because they already have blanking on his name.
Wardlow.
Yeah. I thought of it
I
as soon
could
as you.
see Wardlow turning on Pinnacle,
Ooh.
not for Inner Circle, just because he's fed up with MJF.
Or he inadvertently costs them the match.
Right. Just because he's done with MJF, like MJF trying to direct him or order him around.
Well, no. So time out. Wardlow's not in the match. It's MJF. Wait, is he in the match? MJF.
He was lined up with Hager during the match. It's MJF, Sean Spears, FTR, and
Okay, yeah, he is in the
Wardlow.
match. Okay. So
and you could see him get fed up with MJF stuff. Cost them the match. That doesn't mean he's with Inner Circle. Could be the turn for his face run on his own. Does his own thing and be done with it. Someone says a new member of the Inner Circle.
I don't think we see any new members necessarily.
There's too many people in the factions to begin with.
I don't think we see any debuts. I'm not saying that. I'm not suggesting anything like that. I feel like there's going to be a swerve. I would be shocked if we just get a clear cut, someone submits or someone takes a pinfall or whatever. But all of the build to this match in terms of the competitors in the match, media and interviews that they've done, is that this is going to be a very, 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 very aggressive, hard-hitting match that it could be very lengthy. I think someone said they expect it to go an hour. Wouldn't be at all shocked if it goes 45, 50 minutes at least.
David says all Inner Circle members are handcuffed to the cage. MJF is beating up Jericho and Sammy quits for him.
Could be.
That's an interesting take too, I don't know. I'm excited. I think that it's going to be a really great match. I'm intrigued to see how they do it. I think it's the only match you and I disagreed on for the evening.
Ooh. Mark says Tyson helps MJF. I don't think we'll see Mike Tyson tonight.
I think that would be a poor way to end this match, because Mike Tyson, every appearance Mike Tyson has had on AEW has been atrocious.
Yeah, agreed.
So I would not bring him in for this.
I agree.
I don't think you need an interference, is my point. I think if you're going to have someone turn or have a swerve, it needs to be with somebody in the match.
Agreed. Guys, before we conclude the show, now's the time to get your keyword in, to get your entry into our AEW belt giveaway that we're going to have during our watch party. Again, it is going to be Sunday night, May the 30th. We'll go live at 7 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Central. Join us live throughout the entire broadcast, because that night we will be giving multiple keywords, and you have to reply with all of them throughout the night to get your one entry for that night. But all you have to do to get up to 4 entries is join us live the next 4 Wednesdays, today included. Today's keyword that you have to reply with is dynamite, DYNAMITE. And you automatically get one entry into the licensed replica AEW belt giveaway that we're going to do during that watch party. One thing I left out is you do have to be present during the watch party to win when we announce the winner. So if you're not live with us and you're announced as the winner, we'll probably give you like a 2-minute window to, say, hey, I'm here. I'll claim my prize, whatever. And if you don't, then we'll have to do it again. So again, you can get up to 5 entries total, 1 each Wednesday between now and the watch party itself. So today, next week, the 12th, the 19th, and 26th, if you're live with us and you reply with the correct keyword, you automatically get 1 entry each Wednesday. And you can get up to 5 total. The 5th one you can get if you're live with us. And hopefully you are, because, again, you have to be with us live to win. Hopefully you're live with us on the 30th for our watch party. Again, we go live at 7 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Central. You'll have to reply with each of the keywords that night to get that 5th entry. I'm not going to say how many keywords we're giving. I'm not going to say when I'm giving them. You just have to be watching and hanging out with us live that night.
I'm going to help somebody out real quick. Joey Carpio, just write dynamite, all right?
He's fine.
sometimes it doesn't come through when you write like the number 1 or something in front of it. So try to just write the keyword so it comes through.
Yeah, I mean, Cole's right, because what this does is I've got like a macro formula or whatever that basically you can pull from this chat thread, and it populates into an Excel sheet, and then I just copy and paste from that Excel sheet to the randomizer that we do, so it just makes it easier. But yeah, Cole's right. If for whatever reason you reply incorrectly, it might not pick it up. So yeah, going forward, don't put in a number, or make sure you don't misspell it either. So,
right.
But so far it looks like 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 people, if I'm counting correctly. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. 16 people have gotten their first entry. So I'm going to close up that entry opportunity right now. So as we close, any final thoughts?
Guys, as always, thank you for watching the greatest wrestling podcast ever. We sincerely appreciate it. For that anonymous person who sent in this belt, thank you so much again, and so glad to hear that you're doing well, that your child's doing well, and that we are able to be a light to you during that dark time. And for all those who watch, thank you for tuning in each and every week to join us. Make sure you go check out those new Going Broadway podcast t-shirts. These are based off the Great American Bash. You'll want them. You'll need them. You might as well go ahead and order them now so you have them in time for 4th of July.
Agreed.
I expect to see hashtag Going Broadway podcast a lot on 4th of July with these beautiful creations being worn those days. So make sure that you get those. And you can hit up the Going Broadway podcast page or Alex himself, and he will get those orders in and placed for you. Other than that,
Yep.
I will leave you with your favorite thing in the entire world.
That was a little more high pitched than usual. I'm going to skip out on my $1 million man laugh, just because my throat's a little sore this morning. So, gonna hit the coffee extra hard this morning. We didn't mention that, but $1 Million Man is on NXT now.
2 weeks in a row.
2 weeks in a row.
Vignettes. They're funny.
So, just 1 second. Sorry guys, we are wrapping up the show. Again, I wear multiple hats here, so but again, just a heartfelt thank you to whoever sent us these belts in this letter, especially. Like Cole said, we are thrilled that your son is doing better. And the only thing I know to say is thank you over and over and over and over. And not just to the person that sent us these belts. Again, the belts are just materialistic. Just the knowing that your son has recovered. If and when you watch this, hopefully you do. But we did get your package. We got your letter. If you didn't catch it, we did read it on air earlier this morning to start off the show. We just sincerely appreciate you. We sincerely appreciate all of you that watch us every week, that listen to us every week. So on that note, check us out next week. It'll be week 2 of our AEW belt keyword reveal, I guess. And we'll see you next week.
And so, goodbye. Mwah. And good night. Bang!
This podcast was a presentation of lightupmedia.fm.